Bitcoin has seen a recent rally from the 65k lows to retest the major $60,000 resistance. In today's video, we're taking a look at the weekly candle close, the short-term price action, the macro charts, and the total 3. Let's go ahead and jump in. Okay, MegaWhale team, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you're all having a fantastic day today. Over the last 48 hours, we have seen Bitcoin bounce from the 65k lows to retest the bottom side of the prior horizontal consolidation at 67,000. In today's video, we are doing a deep dive into the short-term price action, the higher time frame charts, and the total altcoin market. Before we do get into it, smash that like button, hit that comment button, and subscribe to the channel. We post daily videos for Bitcoin focusing on the facts, the data, the technical, and the structural information. No hype, no BS, no emotion, pure raw TA. If that is the kind of content you were interested in, join us on Telegram. It is the first link down below. You'll get access to charts, updates, videos, educational posts, and everything you need to stay in the loop with cryptocurrency, with Bitcoin, and the relevant economic news. If you are interested in taking your trading to the next level, join us on VIP. We post trading setups with the exact entries, exact targets, exact stop losses, trade justification, and exclusive analysis. You'll also get access to our group chats, our general chat, trading chart and education chat, news, daily video, help, and trade setup chat. If that is what you're interested in, go ahead and contact me in the pinned comment of the free channel by clicking my name or click these links for more information. Without further ado, let's dive on in. So starting on that market data, as we can see, 24-hour volume is down 3%, sitting at 61 billion. Again, pretty standard for weekend price action. We don't really see all that much increase in volume during that weekend period. 24-hour liquidations, however, are up 30%, sitting at $50 million. Of the 50 million in liquidations, 32 million have come from short positions as Bitcoin has rallied to retest that first level of major resistance at 67,000, and if we look at long liquidations, we can see only 18 million have come from those. Taking a preliminary look at the price action, we can see, as mentioned just prior, in the last 48 hours, we saw Bitcoin bounce from those prior lows at 65,000 to now retest the range low of the prior horizontal consolidation. So in today's video, we'll go deep into what is happening here, discuss what we expect next, and what implications this can have on both potential directions. Moving over to the DXY, looking at the DXY, we have opened up that week green at 105.5. Not too much change expected here in the DXY. Overall, we aren't expecting upward continuations. If we look at the higher time frame, we do have this respective downtrend right over here for the DXY. Again, unless we break above this level, we are not expecting the DXY to go any higher. If we do come up and retest this level, this would be a perfect point for a potential rejection to our range low at around 103, potentially even lower. But once more, like we said, we are not expecting DXY to continue too much higher unless we breach this prior high point at 106.5. So there's a little bit more upward room over here for DXY that we could see, but overall, we are expecting rejections to occur closer to that region. Looking at S&P 500, again, opening up the week green above 5,500, currently sitting at $5,502, looking absolutely fantastic here. We are expecting macro continuations to that $6,000 mark over the coming months, again, provided we are able to sustain above this high, which is a 5,350 mark. We are expecting macro continuations. It is only if we drop back below that level will we then expect a correction to our prior low at 5,000. If we lose 5,000, that would put us into an official high time frame downtrend targeting that 2021 high. The same goes for the Dow Jones. It is considerably lagging compared to the S&P 500. We are expecting an eventual breakout of our prior high, which would trigger that directional continuation upwards like we are seeing on the S&P 500. And again, if we do that prior to breaking our low, we are expecting that continuation. However, if we do break this range low downwards on the weekly, that would trigger a high time frame correction and official downtrend to retest that 21 high. Overall, while we are sitting above support, we are expecting continuations. That is it, guys. Let's go ahead and jump into Bitcoin. A quick summary of what we're going to be discussing, and then we'll jump in. So we're going to talk about the short-term price action, exactly what is happening on the immediate short term, the key trigger points, where the bulls take back control, where the bears take back control, our resistances, our supports. We're going to be taking a look at Bitcoin dominance. We're going to be taking a look at the total 3 market cap. We're going to be briefly going over the macro charts, very importantly discussing the higher timeframes on the 6-hour, the 4-hour, going over exactly what is happening here, and then jumping over to our weekly for that weekly candle close, which is happening in 12 seconds. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into Bitcoin. A quick word from BitGet and BingX before we do. I wanted to briefly interrupt today's video to discuss the 2 exchanges we use on this channel, BitGet and BingX. So which exchange should you sign up to? If you look to the right hand side of the screen, you're going to see the list of differences in relation to KYC requirements and the countries these exchanges offer services to. The first link down below being the BitGet link, and the second link down below being the BingX link. No matter which link you sign up to, you're going to get up to 15% discounts on your trading fees, up to $5,000 in trading rewards, and of course, you'll get access to every single MegaWhale exclusive bonus campaign we run on these exchanges. Alongside that, BitGet and BingX are incredibly similar. They are both ranked top 10 in terms of trading volume. They both have extensive liquidity pools and market pairs offering up to 125x leverage. And most importantly, they both offer protection funds for their users to protect you against any third-party hacks. So get started now and support the channel by clicking the links below. Thanks for listening. Okay guys, let's go ahead and get stuck into it. So we're going to be starting on that weekly candle. And as we can see guys, the weekly candle has just closed, and we close at a price. Exactly, let's zoom in. We closed at a price point of around 66,000. Let's zoom in even further. $66,654. Now, this is not a fantastic weekly candle close. The reason I say that is the weekly candle close was unable to close above 67,000. However, it is not an awful weekly candle close, because if we do zoom out, we were able to close above that prior 2021 weekly high point. So overall, a pretty decent weekly candle close for Bitcoin. Again, not exceptionally bullish, but definitely not a bearish weekly candle close. If we do zoom out to the higher time frame chart and quickly talk about the key levels for the price to continue upwards, we need to see a break over our prior high, which acts as our range high resistance of the current 2 to 3 month long consolidation region. A break over this high would trigger a continuation into price discovery. We are looking at a price target of around $80,000 if that occurs. And for us to enter a macro downtrend, we would need to see a weekly close underneath $60,000, which would be the first indication of a macro reversal since starting this uptrend all the way back in November 2022. If we take a look at the current trend, we can see ever since November 2022, we have been establishing higher lows in the price action. Again, these higher lows have been established this entire way up, indicating we are in an overall uptrend. If we take it from the bodies, we can see these higher lows are established at a price point of around $61,000. So therefore, provided we remain above that range low, we are technically going to still be in an overall uptrend. It is only if we break below this range low and close a weekly candle would we see the first breach of the current uptrend we have been in since the end of 2022, which is going to be essentially our overall macro uptrend. If we take a look at the 2021 top, what we saw over here is we saw deviation below the pi cycle high. That deviation was the trigger point to validate that this in fact was the top. So only when we see those structural breakdowns can we say with confidence that we have seen tops for Bitcoin. While those potential tops are printing, they are only speculative. We need to validate those, and validation comes only after the fact. So we do have speculation that we could be topping out for Bitcoin, but there is no confirmation of that. So when you're looking at what you should do as an investor, generally you want to trade with the probabilities and trade with that trend until it ends. So personally, again, I'm only going to be assuming we are entering a downtrend once we break below that $60,000 region on the weekly. Let's go ahead and take a look at the current price action for Bitcoin. So as we can see, guys, this is the higher time frame chart for Bitcoin. Zooming in to our recent price action, we can see we were traveling in a horizontal consolidation for the span of about 25 days. We saw an eventual breakdown of this region, deviating below the range low to retest a critical level of support at 64,500 to 65,000. Now this 65,000 level was going to be our initial. If you look at this, we've got our high, we got our lower high, we got a lower high, we got a lower high. This was the break of the lower high, this area. This is our support resistance flip. If we extend that across, we can see we came down to perfectly retest that level. So a major area of support, which was going to be the initiation of the uptrend after that multi-week downtrend we have retested. So we have seen a rejection, we have seen a retest, and we have since seen a bounce from that level, now retesting a prior area of support as resistance. If we look at the charts over here from perspective of the momentum, what we can see is we have a valid downtrend for the RSI, which is taken from the initial point of our bearish divergence. Remember, the second point of the bearish divergence is actually deviation in terms of overall price action in regards to the strength of price action. So when we're drawing our RSI trend lines, we generally take it from the initial point, the first high of the bearish divergence. We drag that across to our initial rejection. This is going to establish our trend on our price action, respective trend on our RSI, and now we can see we have a respective downtrend on the price action and that respective downtrend on the momentum. So for us to see any degree of confidence that Bitcoin is going to break back into this region and thus break through this downtrend and back to the range high, we need to see this RSI break over and close over on the 4-hour chart. What we can see on the RSI currently is that the price action is still consolidating and pinching, compressing between our downtrending momentum as per the recent downtrend and our developing uptrending momentum as per the bounce from that $65,000 region. What we can see here on the RSI is we're coming to an apex on the 19th of June, which is in 2 days time, 48 hours. And therefore we are expecting within the next 48 hours, the RSI to make a directional move, whether that be a breakdown or a break upwards, which will be leading for the price action. So we see that break up on the RSI, we are going to likely see continuations upwards, and this may happen at the same time, it may not. And if we see breakdowns on that RSI, we are likely going to see retests of that 65K region. So like we said, although Bitcoin has seen a very healthy bounce and a very good bounce, it is not yet strong enough to validate this as deviation. If we look at our Telegram channel, we have a particular post we talked about a few days ago. Let's just go ahead and scroll back up and find it. This was the chart. We discussed that we potentially are looking for deviation underneath that horizontal range before we see that continuation upwards. The reason we were expecting that is because we assumed we could be potentially seeing a fractal on a smaller scale of what already happened. If we look at the prior range of price action, the higher range of price action, what we saw was a break in, range high retest, range low retest, range high retest into deviation, only to swing toward the high. What are we seeing this time? A range high retest, range low retest, range high retest, only to see deviation again to the low. And again, guys, we're talking about range low and a bounce and deviation, range low, bounce, deviation, just like we saw in CPI data. So what we assume to see over here from a fractal perspective is a copy on a smaller scale here of what we saw already over here. And this fractal is playing at a higher level of price action above, hopefully, that $67,000 support, which could facilitate continuations into the range high and higher. Again, it is only a theory. So far, that chart has played out perfectly. We've seen that correction, a perfect bounce from that support level, and now retesting that prior resistance area. Again, for this fractal to continue, for it to remain valid, we need to validate this correction as deviation. And the only way to validate this correction as deviation is for the price action to reclaim this area of resistance. And for us to reclaim that area of resistance, we need to see that momentum flip positive. So we see those things occur. We have confidence in Bitcoin's price action to see those directional continuations upward. Now, that doesn't mean we expect downwards. We are open to the possibility of downwards, but as we can see in the chart, we have got a critical level of support right over here. So therefore, even if we do see corrections downwards, we are not expecting those corrections to take us anywhere under 64.5k. We'll actually discuss that in a second when we go to our smaller time frame charts. It is only if we lose 64.5k does the lower range of price action between 64.5 to 60,000 become a possibility for directional movements. Let's now go over and zoom out a little bit and then take a look at our short-term chart. So we zoom out, this is a higher time frame range over here. What we see on one side, we generally see on the other side. So we saw deviation to the bottom, we saw deviation to the top. We are now expecting that continuation through that range. If we look at the range for what it is, taking a measured move from the range low to the range high and applying that to the perceived breakout point, that gives us a measured move target of around 85,000. And therefore, we would be expecting, if we see a break of that range high, which is highly likely if we get that positive momentum and break back into the range low, we would see a target of 85,000 through this range. Again, we talked about the bearish scenario already. A weekly close under that level would be the trigger for continuations lower, potentially the 52,000 worst case scenario. We don't think that's going to happen, but that will be worst case scenario. Moving over to short-term price action, we can see over the last 24 hours, Bitcoin was consolidating very aggressively sideways. It's about a 32-hour range over here, a 0.6% range. And we saw a directional breakout of this region, pushing up into that $67,000 region as our target. Again, guys, we share all this stuff on our Telegram channel. As you can see right over here, we talked about these levels of resistance prior to that move. Go ahead and check that stuff out. We saw that directional continuation to 67,000, and we have since seen a little bit of turbulence. Now, what we are seeing is consolidation above that prior resistance, which is a good thing to see. It is a good thing to see. What we would like to see here is we would like to see this continue through this resistance prior to the RSI breaking down. This is a representation of the developing and building momentum since that 65k region low. So provided we are able to remain positive in terms of momentum, which is a representative strength, okay, we are expecting continuations into that next resistance at 67.5k, which would be that higher level of resistance and break us through that resistance level of that range low. So we are looking for continuations up. So the short term, we are expecting that. So when would the bears take back control? For the bears to take back control, we would need to see two things. Number one, we would need to see a breakdown of the RSI. And number two, we would need to see a drop into this range yet again. For the bears to push the price back into that region, which is going to be that 65k region for us to see another full-blown correction, they would need to drop the price below 66,000. A loss of 66,000 is the trigger for directional continuations lower. So overall, a quick scope. The buyers are stepping back in, the price is gaining strength. It is looking good. We are retesting prior resistance points now. We are developing some short-term supports. However, we are not quite there yet. Although we are looking good, we are not quite there yet to validate this correction as deviation and thus to indicate we are going to continue aggressively upwards. We are still in that decision zone as we approach that resistance. However, the tables are turning a little bit in favor of the bulls, but again, not completely yet. It's looking optimistic, but nothing is validated yet. So pay attention to that. Let's move over to the total market cap. Let's just take a look at that weekly first and foremost. What we have seen here is a weekly close above that low short EMA on the Pi cycle indicator. Again, if you look historically, which is the green line, you know what? Let's just do this to make it nice and easy. Let's just go ahead and take everything off except that green line, our low short EMA. What we have historically seen, guys, is once we break into phase number 3, okay? And phase number 3 is the initiation of the bull market. We generally see that after we break through a bear market resistance. So number 2 is the bear market resistance. We enter number 3, we go into a multi-month sideways consolidation, and we continue upwards from there, hopefully breaking through number 1, which will send us into the parabolic phase, which is number 5. We're not yet parabolic phase. We're not actually very close to it even. We are in phase number 4, which is to build up to it. what we generally see after phase number 3 until the pi cycle high is we do not drop a weekly candle underneath, okay? We don't close underneath that low short EMA. So looking at the price action, it is a good thing we saw the price action bounce from this region. Going over to a daily chart, we can see just how close it came, guys. We did not even close a daily candle underneath. Now again, if we look historically from point number 3 onwards in prior cycle, we never closed a daily candle underneath it. So you can see just how fine of a line the altcoin market cap came to, potentially seeing high time frame reversals over here. A lot of altcoins are now retesting their yearly lows, and provided this level is able to sustain, we are expecting continuations through that parabolic resistance and into all-time highs. However, we are basically on the edge of a cliff for altcoins here. If we do see this level breakdown, we see drops below this region, we are going to see terrible corrections for altcoins. Again, this is respective on, again, if we look at the Gaussian channel, we are retesting the lower band of the Gaussian channel. If we see breakdowns below the lower band of the Gaussian channel, we enter high time frame downtrends. Remember, this is a sign of weakness. A breakdown will be a high time frame downtrend. We are technically bearish on altcoins if that occurs. Another thing we are looking at is going to be the bull market support band. If we look at the bull market support band, we are bouncing on the lower band of the bull market support band. Again, telling us we are on the edge of a cliff. It does not end over for altcoins. We could definitely bounce over here, and I would say we need to bounce over here, but if we go much lower, it is going to get quite worrisome for altcoins. We'll discuss this in another video on another day in much more detail, referring to the Bitcoin price movements as well. Moving over to Bitcoin dominance, we can see Bitcoin dominance has dropped a little bit over the last 24 hours. Again, if Bitcoin dominance goes down and we see the total market cap increase, that is generally going to be bullish and potentially signaling that we are entering an altcoin season. If we look at the macro charts before we end off the video, the macro charts are still looking fantastic. Yet again, just like we talked about in the altcoin market, we definitely want to see Bitcoin sustain above both of our pi cycle indicators. What we can see over here is we're able to sustain above our pi cycle indicators for weekly close. We want to, most importantly, sustain below the low short EMA, which is the green line. A loss of that green line sends us into a high time frame downtrend, and guess where that level lines up with? It lines up with $60,000. Once more validating the fact that if we lose $60,000, we not only shift bearish from a structural basis, but from a technical basis as well. So we'll go over that one more time. We were able to sustain above 66,600, which is going to be the yellow line, the price hasn't caught up, and the green line. So it's actually, from a technical basis, a pretty good weekly candle close. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys in tomorrow's video. See you then.